This video is all about different types of forces. A force is a push or a pull. Some examples would be like if you push your book across the desk, maybe if you drop your pen, the force of gravity will pull it down to the ground. We see examples of forces all the time in everyday life. Like velocity and acceleration, force has both magnitude and a direction. So because it has both of those components, force is actually a vector. The strength of a force is measured in newtons. Gravity is a force, and weight depends on gravity, so weight is actually measured in newtons. The combination of all forces acting on an object is the net force. And the net force is if you're talking about one particular object. Forces that act in the same direction are added together. Forces in opposite directions are subtracted. If the net force does not equal 0, the object's motion will change. So here are some examples. Two alligators are pulling on a chicken with their teeth because apparently those alligators really like chicken and apparently they're very hungry. Okay. And so alligator A is pulling with a force of 5 newtons north. So we represent that because this is a vector. We can represent this with an arrow showing us the direction that the vector is moving. And here we can see the magnitude of that vector is 5 newtons, and the arrow shows us that it's pointing towards the north. Alligator B is pulling with a force of 8 newtons south. So if you notice, this arrow is a little slightly bigger than the one up here because this is a slightly bigger force. So if you're trying to find the net force on the chicken, because these are going in opposite directions, you're going to subtract. So you're going to take 8 newtons minus 5 newtons. And so the resulting magnitude is 3 newtons. And then you have to think about, okay, well, which alligator won in this tug of war match? Well, because 8 newtons is bigger, alligator B won, and this chicken is being pulled to the south. So the overall net force on our chicken is 3 newtons south. Okay. Let's look at the next one. So you're trying to hide a stain that you made on the carpet. So you and your friend are moving the couch. Okay. So you push with a force of 6 newtons east, and your friend pushes with 5 newtons east. So if you notice, both of these vectors are going in the same direction. So if they're going in the same direction, then that means you add them together. So 5 newtons plus 6 newtons, that's going to equal 11 newtons is our resultant magnitude. And because they're both in the same direction, our overall direction is east. Let's try one more. Why don't you pause the video and try this one on your own? And then once you finish it, then you can play the video again. Okay, so now let's check our answer. So Zach and Slater are pulling the rope, okay? Zach is pulling with 12 newtons west, while Slater is pulling with 12 newtons east. So what is the net force? Well, they're going in opposite directions, so you have to subtract the two vectors. But, oh my goodness, it's 0 newtons. So that means that Zach and Slater have a tie on their tug of war match. So that means that neither guy won the tug of war because the resultant is 0. There are two main types of forces. There's a balanced force, like what we had with the example of Zach and Slater, where the net force equals 0. This means that the object's motion does not change. So that rope isn't going to go anywhere between Zach and Slater because the net force is 0. And then the first two examples we looked at, we had an unbalanced force because this is where the net force was not equal to 0. Anytime that a net force is not equal to 0, it means that the object is going to have a change in motion. So if the couch wasn't moving before, now all of a sudden you're going to push the couch and the couch is going to move. Or if that chicken was kind of moving one way or the other, now we know that the resultant motion, we know in what direction that's going to be. Thank you.